Hello, this is Sarah Tuberty, your host from Disarming Disability. Enjoy the following program on Public House Media. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Food for Thought podcast. I am your host, Kylie Thompson. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am so excited about this guest. I feel like I say that about everyone, but this is the first guest that I actually knew prior to, looking for guests for the Food for Thought podcast. So today's guest is Haley Schonter. I've known her since about 2015. She is a former pre-professional ballerina, former pageant pal with me, and really is just an amazing woman. So I sat down with her to talk about her experience in the Miss America organization, as well as her experience with Ballet Chicago. So without further ado, I'm just going to go right into today's interview featuring Haley Schonter. All right, everyone, I have Haley Schonter here. How are you, baby girl?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So why don't we jump right in and you tell us all about yourself, anything you want to include. What's up, girl?
So the reason why you asked me to be on the podcast today is because I was a dancer for basically my entire life. I started dancing when I was 3. And initially I was doing all different types of genres. I was doing tap, ballet, jazz, hip hop, and I was doing competitive dancing, so competition dancing. And it wasn't until probably 10 or 11 years old that I decided to do strictly ballet and just dedicate myself to my technique. And I moved to a different studio completely. And at the studio, they were so supportive, so encouraging of all of the girls. There was no talk of body shaming or our physique or anything like that. It was really a positive experience, like truly and honestly positive experience. But it wasn't until I got into Chicago, Ballet Chicago, which is a pre-professional dance program, that I started to experience body shaming, eating disorders, and all those related issues. Do you want me to talk about how I got to Ballet Chicago? Or?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was like, how do you, because you're from Racine, so how did you go from like a dance studio in Racine, I'm assuming, to Ballet Chicago? And like, are you scouted or do you go out and audition for that? What is that process like?
Right. So how I got to Ballet Chicago, the thing that you do in the dancer world is by the time you're 14, 15, or 16, you start auditioning for professional programs, other dance companies, and just start putting yourself out there. And I don't think I started auditioning until I was 16. So my junior year of high school, I was auditioning for places. I auditioned for Milwaukee Ballet, Pacific Northwest Ballet in Washington, Joffrey Ballet in New York, Joffrey Chicago, all these different places. And I ended up spending a summer at Milwaukee Ballet. And now the next year, my senior year, because I wanted to be a professional dancer, I really needed to take this seriously. So I was auditioning for anywhere and everywhere, for big companies, small companies, internship programs, if that's how you want to call it. And I auditioned for Ballet Chicago. And I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, this is just another one I have to do. But I remember in the audition, I really enjoyed the teachers. And I mean, it's in Chicago. I love Chicago. I have family down there. And a couple weeks later, I got an email saying, congratulations, you made it into our pre-professional company for not just the summer, but for our fall and spring program. So I'm ecstatic. I'm crying. I can't believe that I'm on my way. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I got to Chicago.
And so then when you accepted this program, like your involvement in the program, are you attending, because you said it was your senior year, are you attending school and doing ballet all in Chicago?
No. So I
Okay.
finished my senior year of high school. I had the audition they always have auditions in the winter,
Okay.
and then you're auditioning in the winter, and then you go to the program in the summer. So I graduated from high school, and that summer I spent in Chicago dancing for them. And I didn't, there wasn't much body shaming yet because they had so many people from across the country there dancing for them. So it wasn't their own students. I mean, maybe there are some tendencies, but it wasn't as in my face as it was when the fall started because I was their dancer now. I
Hmm.
worked for them.
And so are you paid during your time there?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah, no. So with Ballet Chicago, they're only pre-professional, so they don't pay you.
Hmm.
I'm basically paying to take classes there and be part of that company. Um, so that's why I say it's kind of an internship
Sure.
program. You're not getting paid, which sucked. But all things aside, the teachers were phenomenal. They were some of the best teachers I ever had. They were so tough on you. They really motivated you. Well, there was one that really motivated me the most, and I got very close with him because he worked so well with students and with me. Um, but I'll get into why I quit dancing, and that has a lot to do with the eating disorders. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. So can you walk me through like the summer into the fall, like when you kind of started noticing this behavior change from the company and like how they were treating, like once you became one of their dancers, like how they started treating everyone and their bodies and how it made you feel about like your own body?
Yeah. So, like I said, the summer was a very, very positive, very uplifting because they were responsible for other students across the country. And maybe it's because they didn't want they didn't want those students to have a bad experience. They paid a lot of money to be there, and if they're telling their friends, "Oh, I was being told this about my body and that about my body," it's going to encourage other people to not come to the program in the future. But in the fall, so the way that Ballet Chicago works is you basically have a week of our first classes to get like back into it. Then the very next week you start Nutcracker rehearsals. So you're rehearsing for Nutcracker, training for Nutcracker for months until December where we have like 10 shows. So with that in mind, you're prepping for this big show. It's the biggest show of the year. You have to get in shape. You have to look like everybody else. And the way that Ballet Chicago works is you have to fit the costume. They don't make costumes to fit you necessarily, which is super toxic.
That's insane. Is it like
And
they reuse costumes every year? So it's like it fit this one girl last year, so it needs to fit you this year kind of thing?
right,
Okay.
yeah, they reuse costume, and that's typical everywhere. But at least at my old studio, they would make new costumes for you. They would sew a new set of like measurements for you to different costumes so that you could fit into it. That was never a concern. That was never a requirement for us.
Hmm.
But that was just another part of the thing at the back of my mind is I need to fit into my costume. I need if I want the good roles, I need to fit into the costumes for those good roles. Completely forget about my technique, you know? Um, but then I can't remember exactly when it was, but one of my teachers began really getting on me in the middle of class. And she would just like, I have a thicker bottom half of my body. I always have.
She's in my phone is nothing
she,
but the peach emoji, just so you all know.
yes. So I'm naturally thick. But this teacher, oh man, I may get emotional about this because it just never occurred to me.
Mm-hmm.
She would begin to like grab my thighs and grab my butt and be like, you need to lose this in the middle of class,
Like in front of
everyone.
Oh my gosh.
In front of everyone. And just be like, if you want to be successful, you need to lose at least 15 pounds of this. And just here,
oh my gosh.
just in this area. And if you think about it rationally, it doesn't make sense to lose weight in just one area of your body.
That's like not possible.
Right. You lose just the way every person is set up, you lose weight in different areas first. And yeah, but this went on for months. And she just kept getting on me. You need to lose this. You're not going to be successful if you don't lose this weight. So that's what really started the bad eating habits that I had. I would force myself to not go over 1,000 calories a day. I would never eat processed food. I would not eat bread. I would not eat sugar. I would not drink soda. But if there was a time that I did eat one of those foods, say I ate a slice of bread, I wouldn't eat for the next 1 or 2 days. And eventually I weighed close to like 100 pounds. As an 18, 19-year-old girl, I weighed 100 pounds, and I would get so upset with myself if I got anywhere close to like 105. And it wasn't only my teachers encouraging this, but it was all of the students had this whole mindset. And in the dancer world, so this is kind of a side note, but it'll make sense. In ballet especially, it is a relentless sport. There have been times where I broke my toe in the middle of a performance and I had to keep dancing. You have to keep going. Like the show must go on, literally. So it's this idea that you have to be tough. And we as dancers like to brag about our toughness. We'll say things like, oh yes, I had this giant blister in my shoe. It was gushing out blood, but I kept dancing. I pushed through it and I'm so tough. And that just feeds off of other girls and other guys. So part of what seeps into that same conversation is our eating habits. So there will be girls saying, oh yeah, I haven't eaten since last Wednesday, and it'll be Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
Or yeah, all I've eaten today is an apple, and it's like 5:00 after 7 hours of rehearsals. And it was just this constant bragging of who could be better at an eating disorder than the next person. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, well, I knew that this was part of the dancing world. So if I have to be successful, you have to do it. That's just kind of the price you have to pay to reach all of your goals and your hopes and dreams. But yeah, that's not good.
You touched on something that I was going to ask about too, is like you're talking about only eating like X amount of calories or only eating this much food a day, but you're dancing. Aren't you dancing? Are you doing it 7 days a week?
Yeah. Excuse me. So for me, living in Chicago, you can't have a car. So I was walking miles and miles a day to get to work. I was working well over 40 hours a week, closer to 50 hours a week to pay to live in Chicago. On top of that, I was dancing 2 to 3 hours Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, we would have rehearsals from like 9 until 6, both Saturday and Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
And if I could find time, I was also doing other workouts. I was doing cardio because they say that if you do cardio, you lose fat. So it's like, oh, since my teacher says that I'm fat, even though it was actually muscle, if my teacher says that I'm fat, I have to do cardio to lose the fat. So I was burning so many calories, just an astronomical amount of calories, as every dancer does. So eating 1,000 calories in reality isn't giving me enough nutrients for my body at all. And I don't think I ever had any like physical issues with it, thankfully.
That's what I was going to ask too, is like, I could imagine like if everyone's doing that, there's probably people like passing out in rehearsals or like, oh.
Yeah, there have been times where girls pass out. I remember this one girl specifically. Oh my goodness, she was probably one of the best dancers I've ever seen so up close and personal. She was just phenomenal and probably one of the hardest working people I've ever met. She would show up like an hour before class and then stay an hour afterwards still practicing. But a couple years before I got there, she got seriously injured, so she couldn't dance for a while. And as naturally human bodies do, when you're not working out so intensely as a dancer does, you gain weight. You just naturally get to a healthy level of your body. So she gained weight, but she was healthy. But in the ballet world, that body wasn't healthy in that sort of mindset. So she would come into class with these, they're called garbage bag pants. And they basically are like giant garbage bags.
Is that like what wrestlers do to like sweat it all out?
Yeah. So because she had thicker legs like me, she would wear these garbage bag pants all day. So she, again, it's the mindset of I need to lose weight in this specific area. And that does, I don't know if I can say this, but that does awful things for ladies area. And just, I mean, in general. But she's wearing these garbage bag pants all day. So I started to see, oh, she's doing that. Maybe I should do that. So any chance that I got to borrow some of these garbage bag pants, I would wear it. And yes, there were instances where girls would pass out. They would have to just like stand there and like try to get back their vision because they're blacking out. But again, we wouldn't let ourselves pass out because it's again that toughness that we need. You need to brag about your toughness. You need to endure this pain no matter what. You can pass out, you could die, and you need to come back to life because the show must go on if you want to be successful. And it was, in retrospect, awful.
Yeah, for sure. I can't imagine. I could not be a dancer for so many reasons, and one of them is that like that world is so. I mean, you have to be tough to even like survive that. I feel like dancing ability aside, if you're in that world, you have to have this like mental strength. And so, how long were you in this program, and like how long were you experiencing this kind of like body toxic environment?
Yeah, so I joined Ballet Chicago when I was 18. And so I was with them for 2 years. And it was really my second year that I started to notice that maybe my habits weren't okay. And it was really from conversations that I would have with my coworkers at my other job. And they would offer me like, oh, do you want to try a bite of this? Like, it was at a restaurant. They would offer this bite of their new meal. And I said, oh no, I can't eat that. And they'd be like, oh, well, why not? And I was like, it's not good for me. And it was a bite of food. In my head, I literally thought that one bite of pasta would make me gain 10 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like so taken aback by this. And they were like, you can eat food. It's okay. And I was like, no, I can't. I really can't. But after those conversations really started to make me think, maybe this isn't a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I still loved dancing. And my second year, unfortunately, I started getting so many injuries. I had tendonitis in my Achilles tendons. I had a horrible hip problem in my left hip. There was at one point, like I said, I basically broke my toe in dance. And maybe the eating disorder helped that. Like I wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't getting proper nutrients. I just wasn't taking care of my body. My only focus was dance and be skinny so that I can dance.
Mm-hmm.
But after all those injuries, I was just like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I hate myself. I hate this environment. I love dancing. I don't want to end up hating dancing. So that's when I made the decision to stop dancing. I went back to school. And just because I stopped dancing and stopped being a part of Ballet Chicago, that's not where the eating disorder stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that. I was like, oh no, it'll be fine.
So did you go from Ballet Chicago to UW-Madison?
So no.
Okay.
So my last year at Ballet Chicago, I was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And that's actually when I started competing for pageants.
Okay, I was going to ask how that fits into it too. Okay.
Yeah. So that's when I actually won Miss Racine. Yay.
Yay.
And that summer was my first time at Miss Wisconsin. And you can probably guess where this is going from a dancing ballet environment to pageantry where you had to be in a swimsuit on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of pageant girls try to say that we're very body positive.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, it's not that way, or at least it wasn't that way when I started. I would see so many girls doing anything and everything to fit into their evening gown, to wear a swimsuit to make it look like they had a six-pack abs.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for me, that's normal. It just like, okay, yeah, like you got to do what you got to do to win. And I remember looking back at pictures from when I did swimsuit that year. And I thought I looked so great. I was like, oh, I look so tan. I'm so thin. But now I see pictures and I literally just want to cry, because even at that time, I thought that I was still overweight.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see every single bone in my shoulders. My elbows were so thin. You could see my ribs. And I'm just like, oh, I'm going to get emotional. Like, I really thought that I was fat and not good enough. And just so many other girls felt that way about themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
And even after that pageant, I still carried over all those eating disorders. I still was restricting what I was eating. I was still like killing myself to go to the gym. I would beat myself up if I didn't go to the gym and tell myself, oh, you're going to gain 10 pounds in a day.
Mm-hmm.
It just kept spiraling and spiraling. And like I said, it went from one environment to another that revolved around being thin.
Mm-hmm. And that was one mentality I had, because I started competing in 2015 and then you were in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we started competing well before like body positivity movements and before like Miss America 2.0 and getting rid of swimsuit and all this stuff. And I've said this so many times on the podcast, like I was a plus size girl competing in swimsuit. And there were so many times when people were like, well, one, I would be judged by the other girls because I'm not in the back. Like, I'm eating snacks before I go on stage for a swimsuit. I don't care. Like, it was never like that for me when I first started competing. And then it was this environment of seeing girls like contour their abs and be on the floor doing planks and crunches right before going out, or like running the stairs at Miss Wisconsin, like in the hotel, like because it's swimsuit prelim day. And so then I saw all of that and that like thing in my head that was like, well, you're not doing that. And they're placing higher than you. So you need to do that so that you place higher too. And so it's just such a toxic environment. And like Miss America doesn't intend it to be that way. I've never once been like, Miss America put swimsuit in so that girls feel this way about their bodies. I've never thought that, but I think that all of us, and Haley and I only competed in the state of Wisconsin, so we can only speak to like what we experienced at Miss Wisconsin. But like all of these girls are like doing all these crazy things and all these diets and all this stuff to like fit into their swimsuit or like look good in their swimsuit. And it's like we're doing that to ourselves, and like all of the girls are doing that outside of like whatever Miss America intended it to be. And I'm sure for you to go from like the mentality of like, I have to make myself fit into this costume, like I have to make myself fit into this gown, or I have to make myself like, they're not going to alter that gown to fit me. I'm going to alter myself to fit that gown.
And I guess I should have said this before, but what ballet did for me too is have this mindset of perfectionism, because for however many hours every single day of the week, you're standing in a mirror in a leotard and tights. There's not a lot to hide. And you're constantly critiquing yourself. You're constantly seeing the negative about yourself before you see any sort of positive. You're saying, oh, I need to have better turnout. I need to engage my abs a little bit more. I need to tuck my hips under and not stick my butt out. I need to do this, 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 and this, and this. And with that negative mentality always going on, you start to notice all those little flaws about yourself. Like, oh, I have a thigh muscle. Like, oh, I have a really big thighs. I need to work on that. And again, I should have said this before too. This was part of the whole eating disorder thing. But my teacher would say, oh, if you just roll out your muscle with like muscle rollers, you can break down your muscle. I was like, oh my God, this could be it. So I got this muscle roller with like 3 balls on it with like all these different spikes. And I would spend hours, Kylie, rolling my muscles out. I would show up to dance the next day with bruises all on my thighs. And my teacher would say, oh, I see you're rolling. Good job.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing great. And that's when she started to like me.
They're giving you positive reinforcement for these like terrible habits that they're instilling in you. And they probably don't even realize it too, because teachers, they've been in that environment longer than any of their students. So they're probably not even realizing like the impact that they're having on you guys.
And the positive reinforcement wasn't just in the ballet world. It was still in the pageant world. I'm still so thankful for these people, and you can definitely name drop them. But I'm going to get emotional.
This is
Deb
a
and
safe
Caitlin, Deb and Caitlin of the Miss Racine and Sweeps competitions in Wisconsin never spoke about your weight. Like that was never a concern of theirs. Their biggest concern was that you were happy, you were confident in yourself, and that was just their biggest priority, that you were happy. But I do have to say, too, that there were other people in the organization, both competitors and directors and volunteers, who, especially when I was Mr. Scene and so skinny, and they would say, "Oh my gosh, you look great. You're going to win a swimsuit prelim." And oh man, I wish I could look like that. And just like, oh, like I'm like I'm the model for what swimsuit should look like. So it just was like, I need to stay looking like this. I need to do everything in my power to stay like this. And it again, like you said, it's that positive reinforcement without any ill will behind it. It was just, you don't realize it when it's happening or when you're doing it.
Right. Well, and people inside and outside of the pageant world always equate, I talk about this so much, my listeners are probably like, shut up about this, but like everyone equates like being thin with being healthy. And so they'll see someone that maybe isn't, taking good care of their body and like abusing their body to look a certain way in a swimsuit. And they'll be like, yes, queen, you look so good. You look so healthy. I hate that term because it's like, you don't know what that person is doing. You don't know, especially, and like, I've never talked about this, but I'm going to talk on the swimsuit prelim award, because all that does is, I'm sorry, but like the thin girls win that award. Like it's just how that works. Like they're never going to give that to a curvier girl. They're just not. And like, I mean, obviously now they can't because swimsuit's gone, but like
it doesn't exist.
Right. In all of the years I watched pageants and competed in them and saw all this happen, it was always like, because I always hoped I would win a swimsuit prelim because the judges would understand that like I saved myself and I actually look healthy and I am being healthy, because they claim that lifestyle and fitness and swimwear is all about health, but they're giving it to these girls that are like starving themselves and spending, 3 hours a day in the gym. Like, it's just,
and
that's my opinion on that. Right. For this little plaque that you can put in your room and like $100.
Right. And it's all, I mean, this is all in retrospect, but it's just like, at least I would, and I'm not alone in this, I would kill myself over this tiny little plaque that said swimsuit prelim. And it's just like, what? All for just a little bit amount of money and a little glass plaque. And that's what I got for starving myself, going to the gym, like all these different things.
I always think about too, I think what people do after a competition, win or lose, is a lot about like their prep. And I don't know if you ever did this, but like when I was competing in swimsuit and like working out so hard and like really being hard on myself, and I did diets similar to you where it's like, no, oh my gosh, before I competed in the title that I have now for the first time, I was like, no bread, no sugar, no carbs, I ate like only fruits and vegetables. And I love cheese. Cheese is like, I eat 6 string cheeses a day. And I was like, no cheese, no nothing, not like, literally I did like that raw foods diet. And I like lost all this weight and like everyone. And then, so afterwards it's like you eat 7 cookies and like all the stuff, and you go out to Culver's and you get the cheese curds and you do all this stuff. That is not healthy. Like,
no.
And I always see those girls, like, they're like, oh, I'm going to order pizza to my hotel room. I'm like, okay, that's great. And I'm a big believer in like celebrating accomplishments or like I love food, and I love celebrating with the people that I love, or like using food as a way to bring people together and like celebrate something. But if you're like, after this, I get to eat an entire pizza, like that's not healthy. That's a restrict and binge cycle. And it's so normalized in the pageant community.
Yeah. And yeah. And I snapped. I don't know. And I mean, when I was Mr. Scene, my thinness was because I was dancing so much. But then I competed the next year. I didn't get a title, so I couldn't go to state. So a whole year went by, and literally naturally how our bodies work, I gained weight so that I was at a normal weight. But that pageant season in the winter and spring, I finally won a title. And I still remember this. we had a meeting after the title. It was 12 o'clock at night. I was exhausted. I had been there since like 7 a.m. All hair done, you know.
Oh, yes.
We had this meeting, and she was like, first order of business, you have to lose weight.
No
And
way.
I was like, but yeah, they were just like, you have to lose weight. You have to be swimsuit ready for state.
Oh my God.
And it was just like, oh my God, I like, not this again. Like, not this again. And it was even more toxic about it was they even emailed me pictures from my swimsuit competition.
No way.
And they were the most unflattering pictures ever. And just in my mind, I was like, I look like a whale. I can't believe I look this fat. In reality, you guys, I probably weighed normal weight for a 21-year-old woman. And again, like you said, like the whole health thing, I was healthy. I was working out. I was eating. Hello. But I was just, because you're in a swimsuit, you can see everything. I just thought.
And those pictures are always like down shot and you're like up and they're just like not flattering no matter who you are. No matter who you are, they look like shit.
I was just like, I eventually made it like my screensaver so it could remind me of what I was avoiding.
Oh my gosh.
And they would constantly remind me of that picture. And I was just like, oh my God, you're right. If I want to win Miss Wisconsin, I need to be thin. I need to be pretty. I need to be all these different things. I need to get back to working out and eating. So they assigned me a personal trainer, and he gave me, I literally had to eat what he gave me. He was like, you cannot, you can't eat anything else. You only get one cheat day, but that cheat day has to be within reason. So basically it wasn't a cheat day. And he was like, this is what you eat. This is your menu for the whole week. And he was like, these are the workouts. And the workouts that he gave me were like, and this isn't on him because he was doing his job. You know, he was given an objective and he was told to do it. But the workouts were all about just like slimming down, losing weight, not about building muscle at all.
So is it like, it's like going to be cardio based then and probably like little 5-pound weights you're slinging around?
Yeah. And with me, I apparently I build muscle very easily. So it was like, even though I was doing all these things, I just built muscle. And it was still this constant idea that I was fat, but I wasn't. Oh my goodness. And then it comes time to state, and there were other people feeding into this, other people encouraging me, you know, you have to stay on this diet. Even this week, you have to remember, if you did everything you're supposed to do, you're going to make top 10 on Saturday. So you have to have this strict diet. You can't, like we said earlier, you can't cheat after your final swimsuit. And I was like, oh, okay. But everybody knows that Miss Wisconsin, they give you whatever.
Yeah, they feed you.
Lettuce.
I was just going to say, was that the year? I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018 that they gave us nothing but like salad and maybe a sandwich, but it was like a hard-boiled egg for breakfast and like an iceberg lettuce salad for lunch.
I think it was that year. And I was just like, it was either iceberg lettuce or like unreliable food. Like, okay, knowing my stomach, I'm going to go with the iceberg lettuce because I have a sensitive stomach.
I've just started bringing my own food. I'm like, screw this, guys.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to me a little bit about, just so that we can like kind of come to a closing, a little bit about like, so for listeners, she is no longer obviously at the pre-professional level of dancing. She's not doing pageants anymore. Haley's out here doing all the great things, boss babe things outside of like that world. So what is your life like now that you have kind of eliminated those, what seem to be like triggers for you and your body image and eating disorder tendencies?
Yeah. So, and I want to say too that this sort of mindset was also my last year in pageants, which was just last year. And again, I have so much thanks to give to Deb, Caitlin, and Chelsea, who was my mentor, because they were all about being happy. There was never any word about body, what I was eating, if I was working out, nothing. But this helps because of the whole body positivity movement happening right now and before. But I just really realized, I have this body and I'm a thicker girl. And I think I like that about myself. Like, I like having thick legs. I like that I'm Peach in your phone. I do take pride in being a thicker girl. So I was like, since I build muscle easily, I like being active. I do enjoy an active lifestyle. I was like, I want to just lift weights. I just want to lift weights and see how buff I can get, because clearly that's how my body wants to be. So screw it. So now I work out probably 3 to 5 days a week. This is new for me because, again, it was still that mindset of I have to work out every single day. Otherwise I'm going to get fat and I'm going to be lesser of a human. So I was like, you need to stop that. So if I get to the gym 5 days a week, great. If I only go 3 days, great. That's fine. And with my eating, I would say I eat well. I try to eat like enough vegetables so that like you're getting enough nutrients. I eat fruit because I like fruit. But if I want to go to Popeyes for a spicy chicken sandwich with fries and a large Dr. Pepper, I will do it.
Yep. Yes, queen.
I love fried chicken. Oh my goodness. I'll eat out, and it's okay. It's okay to eat, well, garbage food every once in a while. You're not going to implode by eating a spicy chicken sandwich from Popeyes every once in a while. And I just have to say that I just feel so much happier. I don't want to say that I've gotten there. I've hit the finish line. I'm just much happier with where I'm at right now.
Well, good. I'm so happy for you. And like that, I don't know, I've known you since like 2015 or 2016. And like, I didn't know all of that about you. So this is really interesting to like I've said a million times in this episode, like I'm not familiar with the dancing world at all. And like, I've heard rumors and like, I know what the pageant world is like for myself, but like, it's almost comforting to know that like other people in this program felt that way at times too. And like, sometimes, I mean, I'm still involved in the program and like, I've learned how to like cope with like all that toxic stuff going on within the program. But like, sometimes it's just easier to like be done. And I think that it shows like strength in you for deciding that like this dance environment was toxic. I'm going to try something else. Then you go to pageantry and like, that's toxic. I'm going to try something else. Like it just shows like a lot of like mental resiliency in you too. And like strength. So you're doing great, baby.
Thank you. And I will have to say too, I said this to you before we got started, is for the longest time, literally up until recently, I never thought of my eating disorder as serious. I never even called it an eating disorder for a while. Because it's just so normalized in ballet and unfortunately in pageants that it's like, well, everybody else does it. And I was eating, sometimes I would never starve myself for over a week. I would never make myself throw up. I would never take laxatives. So it's like, it wasn't the most severe eating disorder.
And that's how
but
eating disorders work in your head. They're like, oh, well, she's sicker than me. He's sicker than me. So like, I'm not actually sick.
Yeah. And it was just kind of coming to terms with, Haley, you did have an eating disorder. And while initially I thought that it wasn't that bad, it was pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
And it was valid. My feelings were valid behind it. So I shouldn't try to minimize my experiences, because doing that could lead to feeding that eating disorder behavior,
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's just kind of realizing it did happen, and
Mm-hmm.
you're okay. Like, you're not less of a person for having endured that, and you can feel comfortable talking about it as an eating disorder. You shouldn't feel ashamed or like, well, it wasn't that bad, so I shouldn't make myself to be that way. No, you can, because you went through that,
Mm-hmm.
So I just hope that other people who think that they could have an eating disorder don't feel ashamed of talking about it, because they know other people had it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Your experience is still valid.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on, my queen. I'm so happy that we did this.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed hearing all about Haley's experiences. And like I said in the intro, she's just such a light and such an accomplished individual, and really an inspiration to anyone that is putting themselves in a toxic environment and negative environments that affect your mental health in any way, whether it's an eating disorder or not. I think, and I said this in my interview with her, it shows a lot of strength to be able to remove yourself from those things that you may really love and you may think are benefiting you, but really are deteriorating your mental health in whatever way it's doing that. And I think it was very big and strong of Haley to remove herself from those situations and to come out of all of those experiences that maybe have been a little bit negative and still be a strong, empowered individual. So Haley, if you are listening, I love you so much. And doing this interview was a huge honor for me. I got to know you so much better, and this was just really, really eye-opening for me. And I want to get in contact with more dancers and talk about this, because like I've said, I know nothing about the world of dance, and just to be able to learn about this world is so fascinating to me. So if you are a dancer of any kind, or, a cheerleader or any kind of athlete in this way, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, or you can email me at foodforthoughtpod.info@gmail.com. I'll put that in the bio description, as well as Haley's social media information, so that you can all give her a follow and learn more about the boss babe that she is. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I love you all. I will see you next week.